Hey everybody, it's Corey, and welcome to Linda's Electric Quilters. I know you're probably wondering, what is he doing behind a sewing machine? Normally, I'm with the long arms. So I've been quilting for 15 years, but I've actually really never pieced a quilt. This will be with you on the screen, piece quilt number 4. I started piecing probably last month, and I haven't been able to stop. So it's been really strange to kind of shift my brain from thinking from the quilting side of it to the actual piecing side. But I absolutely love piecing. I'm really excited to do it. I'm always thinking about different design ideas and what else I can do, and then of course being able to take it to my machine and do something beautiful with the quilting side of it. So today we're going to do a jelly roll race. And so the jelly roll is right here to my right hand side to your left while you're looking at it. And we are going to be doing this quilt. The finished quilt from a jelly roll that you're going to get is about 50 by 60. And you'll see that the strips, the way they're pieced together, we're actually doing them on a 45. And I've got a really cool trick that I found out for you to do it to make it easier and faster for it to be done. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So I've got a jelly roll right here. And I am going to go ahead and take off the decorative ribbon that's on it. And then there's a rubber band underneath that as well, so we're going to pop that off, and I will lay this out. Go ahead and lay this just like so. And we're going to be pulling these strips right off of the jelly roll. So we're going to grab 2 strips, pull those off, and we are going to be doing these right sides together, just like so. And I normally leave a little bit of extra piece on the side just in case I don't get that perfect 45. But what I'm going to do is I cannot sew a straight line just yet to save my life. And so what I'm going to do is I got a little easy trick for you, is grab a piece of painter's tape, masking tape, something really easy, and lay that right above your bobbin cover. Don't go into where the sewing mechanism is, but just lay that right on top of that. And normally most bobbin covers have markings on them, and you can just place that on the one that's on the farthest left, which would be that straight line stitch. So we'll place that on there just like so. Try to make that as straight as I can. That's good right there. Mask that down, and then I'm going to take my 2 strips. Oh, lost my one down here. There he goes. And I'm going to lay them right sides together. And we're going to sew this one on that 45. So we're going to place that right here. Drop our presser bar down. And what we're going to do is we have this right up here at where the 2 fabrics, right up here where the fabrics make the right angle, and then right here where they make a right angle where they intersect with each other. I want to make sure that it's staying in line with the side of that tape, and what that's going to allow me to do is make sure that I'm making a perfect straight line all the way to the needle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to start stitching. So keep those there. And what that did, let me cut it so you can see, was that made it really easy for me to do a perfect straight line stitch all the way through. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to keep going all the way through because you'll see when I unfold. That's what it's going to look like on that 45. So there's one, grab the next one, and you're basically kind of making an L with these, so throw those over, grab my next strip, and you're kind of making an upside down L. So right there and right there. Then we're going to come up here, drop our foot down right in the center, and then center this up with our tape to make sure that we're keeping and making that straight 45. So we're going to take that and go all the way until we get to the end. So I'm going to keep doing this all the way through, and this is all you have to do to get started, is to put all these strips together. So I'm going to come all the way through doing this, and I'm actually going to chain piece these together just so it runs a little bit faster. So you saw I didn't cut my threads or anything. I'm just going to keep on moving through right here. Make sure those are straight, and take off. So like I talked about earlier, I'm doing that what we call chain piecing. So as you can see, these are kind of just kind of drifting down. They're just kind of holding on, but they're all still attached together just by one tiny little thread. But that really decreases the amount of threads that you've got, and you can just kind of keep moving through it instead of having to cut your top thread and your bobbin thread every single time. Alrighty, so we're coming up close to the end here. I've got a few more strips. I've got two more, or one more after this one. And you can see down below that they are all still connected since we're doing that chain piecing. And so how many of them are there? There is a ton of fabric kind of in this process just because you're doing a ton of strips at one time. So here we're coming up on the last one. I promise you the longest part of this process is the pressing side of it and then putting these together on the 45. But I really recommend putting, if you don't have another gadget, I know there's a couple different tools out there, but putting down that piece of tape so you can follow it to have a straight 45 line. We're coming up here on the end. I'll cut that. And so you can see right here, I have got a ton of strips. I'm covered in strips. Tons and tons of strips for this jelly roll. Okay, so we're going to kind of keep those where they are. And what we're going to do is grab our scissors and we are going to cut these apart and then cut our excess pieces off. So with those excess pieces, what we can do is you're probably going to want to cut between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. You don't have to be perfect. That's what's so great about this. So I'm just going to cut those where I see them, making sure I'm not cutting any additional fabric as well, and then also cutting that chain piece of thread in between it, just like that. So then I'll throw my scraps out, and I'm going to do the same thing all the way down the rest of it. So I will cut my chain piece and then cut the excess fabric. And now remember, putting these strips together like we just did on that 45, it probably took me maybe 10 minutes to do all that. So this is a super fast quilt to put together. All right, so just remember when we're doing this cut that we cut our chain piece, and then we're going to cut probably between 1/4 to 1/8 away from our stitching line right here. Just cut that and then toss the excess away. And I'm going to do this all the way down until we get to the very end. Alrighty, we're coming up towards the bottom. I'm excited. Finally get this cutting piece. And I tell you, the cutting it and the pressing it part, that's what takes the longest. But we are coming up together, and I've just got a big pile of strips right here. I'm just trimming off those pieces. I mean, what do I have? 1, 2, something like that. Put those together. Cut, cut, cut. And remember, don't have to worry about pulling out the rotary cutter and getting a mat. Just eyeball it, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Nothing too crazy. Doesn't have to be a straight line. You already sewed the straight line. Right there. Last one. Oh wait, that was the last one. Woohoo! Done. Okay. So move all those off to the side. That's all my pieces I got to throw away. So now that I've got all of this, I'm going to hold one side. Normally I just throw it over my shoulder so I don't lose it. And then I got to find the end of this, which is going to be the, oh, that was easy. That's the first time it's ever been that easy. And then I'm just going to toss these either right over here or right underneath me. I'm just going to throw them right here to the side. Kick those there. There we go. Then you're going to take one end, and then you're going to take the other end, and then you are going to pull them together. Now, it's very important to know that you'll have both of your strips, the starting point and the ending point. But what you're going to want to do is take about 15 to 18 inches off of one of them. Okay, so I'm going to do this strip right here. It doesn't matter which one, just one of them. So 15 to 18, you can guess it or you can measure it. I'm just going to guess it, so I'm going to pull it up, go, that looks good, and then throw it off to the side. Okay, So then, and that way, the reason you're cutting that off is if you look here, all of these are kind of staggered where those 45s are. They're kind of staggered throughout the quilt, and cutting off that beginning piece will allow those to give that staggered look. If you don't, sometimes they can stack right on top of each other. So we're going to pull these together, and we're going to put them together, right sides together. And I'm saying together a lot, but you're going to put them right sides together, and you're going to go ahead and stitch a straight stitch all the way down until you get to the very end. This is why it's so fast, and it really is a race. It's kind of fun to do it. So place that on there, drop my foot down, just like so, and let's go. This is where the whole race side of it really comes in. So I've got these two, and then with my strips, normally I will hold one side in this right hand, right here, and then I will have another one in the left hand, and I'm just going to kind of let it feed in there nice and just kind of keep them separated, and this kind of easily allows me to shift them back and forth to make sure that they're staying right on top of each other. So let's go ahead and do that, and we're just going to fly right through this and throw that machine full speed and let it go. And just make sure that you're keeping that 1/4 inch seam, and then every now and then you'll have to stop to move them up, shift them around because they'll start twisting on you. And let it go. So we're going to do this all the way to the end. Alrighty, so we're coming up to the end of this first pass, which this is the longest one because you're doing so much sewing. And what you're going to want to do, let me go ahead and stop this now, is once you get to, you'll have about 1 foot to 2 feet left of stitching, and you'll be able to flatten out your strips all the way and be able to easily tell whether or not there's going to be a fold in them. And if there's not a fold in them, you got really lucky. Most of the time I always have a fold at the very end. So I'm going to pull these strips as close as I can to where that fold piece is, because you're basically going to end up cutting right here. You're going to end up cutting basically right here. And so with that cut, you just want to be able to use as much fabric as you can, as little as you can, I'm sorry. So we're going to take our scissors and take this cut, just pull that up as much as I can, maybe if I can find the exit, there we go, and cut that, and that's a pretty cut. But now what we're going to do is continue stitching on. So I'm going to finish out the rest of this stitching and go all the way down. Just going to keep on trucking. Alright, coming up to the end here. And we're just going to stitch it all the way through, all the way off. Make sure my lines are staying. Lower that a little bit. So we can get to right here. And right there we'll stop. Perfect. So we'll cut our threads. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this for it to be a straight line, otherwise it's going to bug me. So we will cut that to be a straight line. Perfect. Throw that off. Okay, so we have got all of this, and it's not going to stop for a while. Just going to keep on going all the way. Maybe. We'll find it eventually. Maybe. All of this. Okay, so we're rolling up on the end here finally. Oh, that's a lot. But it was just a straight line stitch. It's really easy to do. You just have a lot of it. So what I recommend that you do, and this is just from trial and error, is this would be my 3rd jelly roll that I've put together. And I'm going to go ahead and press these seams open, okay? That way I can, it takes a long time to press. This is the longest part of it, is pressing. All right, we're coming up to our last seam pressing them open. I know it takes a little bit of time, but it's completely worth doing it now as opposed to at the end of the quilt. But if you want to wait until you get to the end of the quilt to do it, that is okay. It's perfectly fine. So you're going to get your ending strip and wherever you begun, and we are going to place them right sides together. And all you're going to do is straight line stitch all the way down one side. So we're going to take this and come on over to here, place these down, and begin stitching. Full speed ahead, let's race on. Alrighty, now we're rolling up here to the end. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. And whenever you're coming up to the end here, you want to leave probably between 1/4 to 1/2 inch at the end. You don't want to stitch all the way through. So we'll get all the way there. About that 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Right there works. And maybe a little bit more. Right there is good. Okay, we'll cut that. And now what we're going to do is with this little opening, we are going to take our scissors, and you can do it on either side, either the side that you sewed or not. And we're just going to cut this all the way through, just like that. It's going to open all the way, and we'll bring all of our strips back, and it's starting to come together. You can see everything's starting to slowly come together. There's our 45s, and it's looking really cool, especially with these batiks. So we'll pull it all the way back. Make sure we leave our start point over here. Pull it all the way back. Gonna get a workout too in this race. And then we'll pull these right sides together here at the machine. Match our sides up together. Put that underneath the machine here. Straighten that up a little bit more. There we go. Make sure we're staying straight on that. Put that underneath our foot. Drop our foot down. Full speed. And same idea. Straight line stitch. All it is. Just going to stitch all the way down. Alrighty, so we're coming up here to the end again. Making sure we're keeping our sides next to each other. And remember, when you are doing that cut, remember you want to stop your stitching between 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch away from the end. So that'll work right there for me. So I'll cut that. So we've got that right here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my scissors again. And cut. Like that. Open it up. Oh, it's looking so good. All right, so we're gonna pull, and we're gonna pull. Who said piecing wasn't a sport, y'all? I tell you, my watch has been dinging at me. I'm burning calories left and right. Pull this. Here we go. So, grab your side again. Lay it down. Grab the other side. Lay it down. Right sides together. Just like we've been doing the whole time. Right sides together. Throw those down so they can untangle. And we'll come back over to the machine. And make sure that we've got that 1/4 inch. Drop our foot down. Make sure that's straight. Gotta line up a few of our things just in case as we're getting bigger on the pieces, and start stitching. So as you can see, let me stop this real quick. As you can see, I've kind of stopped pressing all these other seams. I only pressed that very beginning one. And the reason why I only pressed that very beginning one, for a time saver, but two, these seams that I'll always be stitching, these two are always going to be pressed open when you're doing that first one, and it lays nice and flat when you're putting it together instead of it being bunched up. like this while you're piecing it, so it's a lot easier for it to lay nice and flat if you press that first seam before you start putting the rest of this together. So I know it takes a few extra minutes to do it, but it makes it so much easier to piece together when you press that first seam down. Okay, so we just got done stitching, and whenever we finished, remember we finished between 1/2 to 1/4 of an inch, and I went ahead and cut really quick, and so now I've laid these right sides together, and now we're getting to be really, really big on the quilt. So now that you've got, an easier amount to work with, make sure that you're going to come all the way down to the very end, and make sure that your fabrics are not folding on each other, because otherwise it's going to be a really jagged cut. It's not going to work the way that you want it to. So if you just pull it all the way up over you and just make sure that it's going to stay flat all the way to the end and that they're not folding over each other. That way you don't have to cut them awkwardly. So we'll lay this here, and starting to get to be a lot of quilt to work with. Line up our seams, come down to the machine, drop our foot. Oh, that was a little too far over. There we go. And start stitching. This is our last pass. I'm so excited to see what this is going to look like. Alrighty, we're coming up to the end again, and this gets faster and faster each time you do it. If you're working with less and less fabric. So we're coming up here to the end, leaving that 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch right there. We'll stop. Perfect. Grab our scissors. And I know y'all are probably wondering, I don't have fabric scissors. Yes, I know, but I'm just going to use the ones that I had readily available right with me. Remember, this is only the 4th time that I've really pieced, so I gotta have to get some fabric scissors on order. So we've got this. We're gonna cut, and we'll come up to here. Just cut all the way down. And if you feel more comfortable pinning this so you know it's perfectly in half, you can do that as well. All right, so we'll do that, and I will stand up as much as I can and try to show you that this is what the end all be all is. So it was super easy. Okay, we started with those 45s, and then all we did after that was straight line stitch all the way down, and this looks beautiful. So the only other thing that you're going to need to do is make sure you press open your seams. It lays really flat on the quilting machine for the quilter or for yourself, and you're all good to go. Thanks for stopping by and seeing how easy it is to do the jelly roll race. Pick up a jelly roll from your local quilt store and get going on it.